Chosen One. The message presented here centers on a period of significant personal disruption and reassessment, framed as a necessary process rather than a random or punitive event. Across cultures, belief systems, and even psychological frameworks, periods of instability are often interpreted as signals that existing structures, emotional, relational, professional, or internal, are no longer sustainable. What is being described is not a minor adjustment, but a comprehensive reset that affects multiple areas of life simultaneously. In practical terms, such a reset often feels abrupt. Circumstances that once appeared stable begin to change without warning. Long-standing routines lose relevance. Relationships shift or end. Plans that once felt secure suddenly stall. From the outside, these moments can look like failure or loss. From a broader perspective, however, they often mark a transition point where growth has exceeded the limits of the current environment. The idea of an emergency cleanup, as described in the original message, aligns with this concept. It suggests that change is occurring not because something went wrong, but because something has outgrown its previous form. In psychology, this parallels what is known as developmental dissonance, the tension that arises when identity, capability, or awareness evolves faster than external circumstances. When this gap widens, disruption becomes unavoidable. Importantly, this process is rarely comfortable. Human beings are wired to seek predictability. Stability provides emotional safety, even when it no longer serves long-term well-being. As a result, when familiar structures dissolve, the initial response is often confusion, grief, or fear. These reactions do not indicate weakness. They are natural responses to uncertainty. What matters is how these moments are interpreted and navigated. The narrative emphasizes that removal is not equivalent to punishment. Instead, it reframes loss as filtration. What is being stripped away are elements that no longer align with the direction life is moving toward. Outdated beliefs, draining commitments, unbalanced relationships, or internal narratives formed during earlier stages of survival. This interpretation encourages individuals to examine what is leaving their lives without immediately labeling it as negative. A common pattern during these transitions is the sensation of emotional exposure. People report heightened sensitivity, increased introspection, and a sense that unresolved issues are resurfacing. Rather than being random, these experiences often occur because the usual distractions and coping mechanisms have been disrupted. When external noise decreases, internal signals become clearer. This clarity, however, arrives gradually. Early stages are marked more by confusion than understanding. Plans fall apart before new ones form. Certainty disappears before direction becomes visible. In many cases, individuals attempt to re-establish control by forcing outcomes, only to encounter further resistance. The message here argues for restraint during this phase, allowing the process to unfold rather than attempting to immediately replace what has been lost. Another recurring element in such periods is the sudden re-evaluation of relationships. Connections that were maintained out of habit, obligation, or shared history may no longer feel sustainable. Communication becomes strained, values diverge, or emotional reciprocity fades. While this can be painful, it often reflects a deeper realignment of priorities rather than personal failure. From a broader analytical standpoint, transitions of this magnitude usually indicate an identity shift. When internal values change, external structures must follow. If they do not adjust organically, they are eventually disrupted. This is not unique to spiritual narratives. It is evident in career changes, recovery processes, and major life pivots across socioeconomic contexts. The original script frames this shift as purposeful and directed. While the language is spiritual, the underlying concept mirrors well-documented patterns of growth. consolidation before expansion, clearing before rebuilding. In organizational theory, similar processes occur during restructuring phases, where outdated systems are dismantled to make room for more efficient ones. A key assertion is that what appears to be delay is often protection. Missed opportunities, canceled plans, or stalled progress may prevent individuals from committing to paths that would later limit growth. In hindsight, many people recognize that setbacks redirected them away from environments or decisions misaligned with their long-term development. This reframing is critical because it alters how uncertainty is experienced. Instead of viewing pauses as evidence of failure, they become intervals for recalibration. This does not eliminate discomfort, but it provides context that reduces panic and impulsive decision-making thought. The narrative also introduces the idea of internal preparation occurring beneath the surface. While external results may be temporarily absent, internal shifts, changes in perception, confidence, discernment, and resilience are already underway. These changes are subtle and often unrecognized at first, but they determine the sustainability of future success. Individuals in this phase frequently report an emerging sense of clarity about what no longer works for them. Tolerance for misalignment decreases. Situations once endured without question begin to feel intolerable. This is not increased fragility, but increased self-awareness. As standards rise internally, external mismatches become more apparent. Another significant theme is the release of accumulated emotional residue. Over time, people collect unprocessed experiences, disappointments, unspoken grief, unresolved anger, suppressed ambition. When life slows or destabilizes, these elements surface. Although this can be overwhelming, it also offers an opportunity for resolution. Processing replaces suppression, creating psychological space for new growth. The comparison to renovation is particularly relevant. In construction, structural improvements often require demolition. Old materials must be removed before stronger foundations can be laid. Attempting to build without clearing instability only compounds future problems. Personal development follows a similar logic. As this internal cleanup progresses, decision-making begins to change. Choices become less reactive and more intentional. External validation loses influence, while internal alignment gains importance. People become more selective, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Energy is conserved rather than scattered. The narrative also addresses the feeling of being repositioned. This does not necessarily mean immediate advancement. Often, repositioning involves stepping away from visibility, reducing activity, or reassessing direction. From the outside, this may look like stagnation. Internally, however, it is often a phase of integration where lessons are consolidated. Importantly, the message discourages panic during moments of apparent regression. Progress is rarely linear. Plateaus and reversals are common in any complex system undergoing change. What distinguishes constructive transitions from destructive ones is not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of coherence over time. The idea that nothing meant for you is being taken away reflects a principle widely acknowledged in resilience research. LOSES that facilitate long-term adaptation often remove options that would later restrict growth. While this is rarely comforting in the moment, it becomes evident through longitudinal perspective. As internal clarity strengthens, intuition or practical discernment becomes sharper. People report improved ability to assess situations, recognize red flags, and identify opportunities aligned with their values. This is not mystical insight, so much as the result of reduced internal noise. When emotional clutter clears, perception improves. The script suggests that this process is individual and specific rather than generic. While the language frames it as divinely directed, The practical implication is that no two transitions unfold identically. Context, timing, and personal history shape the experience. Comparison to others becomes less useful during this phase. The emphasis on trust does not imply passivity. Rather, it advocates for measured engagement, taking deliberate action without forcing outcomes prematurely. This balance between patience and responsibility is difficult but essential. Over-control leads to burnout. Disengagement leads to stagnation. As the first part concludes, the central idea becomes clear. Disruption is not the endpoint. It is the preparatory phase of a larger reconfiguration. What is being removed is making room for structures that cannot yet be built under previous conditions. In the next phase, attention shifts from what is being cleared to what is beginning to form beneath the surface. Internal changes move closer to external expression, and alignment begins to translate into direction. As the process described in the earlier section continues, the focus gradually shifts from removal to reconstruction. Once outdated structures have been cleared, attention naturally turns toward what is being formed in their place. This stage is often quieter, less dramatic, and more subtle, but it is no less significant. It is here that internal changes begin to translate into outward direction. One of the earliest signs of this transition is a change in perception. Situations that once felt overwhelming begin to appear manageable. Problems are no longer viewed as personal failures, but as logistical challenges with potential solutions. This shift does not happen suddenly. It develops as clarity replaces confusion and emotional reactivity gives way to measured response. During this phase, many individuals report an emerging sense of internal stability, even when external circumstances remain uncertain. This stability is not rooted in guarantees or outcomes, but in increased self-trust. The ability to navigate ambiguity improves because decision-making becomes anchored in values rather than fear. Another notable change is the refinement of priorities. Time and energy are finite resources, and during periods of growth, people become more aware of how these resources are spent. Activities that once consumed attention without yielding progress begin to feel inefficient. Conversely, efforts aligned with long-term direction feel more energizing, even when they require discipline. This realignment often affects professional and creative pursuits. Career paths may be reassessed, not necessarily through immediate changes, but through a clearer understanding of what constitutes meaningful work. Productivity shifts from quantity to quality. Output becomes more intentional, guided by purpose rather than pressure. The narrative also highlights increased discernment in relationships. As internal clarity strengthens, interpersonal dynamics are evaluated with greater honesty. Some connections deepen, grounded in mutual respect and shared direction. Others naturally loosen, not due to conflict, but because alignment no longer exists. This process, while sometimes uncomfortable, reduces emotional friction over time. Importantly, this stage does not suggest isolation. Rather, it emphasizes selective engagement. Connection remains essential, but it becomes more conscious. Boundaries are established not to exclude, but to preserve focus and well-being. A recurring theme is the restoration of personal agency. During earlier phases of disruption, individuals often feel at the mercy of circumstances. As integration occurs, this perception shifts. While external factors remain unpredictable, internal responses become more consistent. This sense of agency reduces anxiety and restores momentum. Confidence begins to return, though in a different form than before. It is quieter and less performative. Instead of seeking validation, individuals operate from internal assurance. This confidence is resilient because it is not dependent on immediate results or external approval. The original message references the return of lost abilities. Interpreted practically, This often manifests as the rediscovery of skills, interests, or strengths that were set aside during periods of survival or compromise. Creativity may resurface. Analytical thinking sharpens. Emotional intelligence improves. These capacities were not lost. They were deprioritized under pressure. As these abilities reemerge, individuals often experience increased intuition, understood here as improved pattern recognition. Past experiences, once perceived as disconnected events, begin to form a coherent narrative. Lessons integrate into wisdom. This enhances decision-making and reduces repeated mistakes. Another aspect of this stage is heightened sensitivity, not as vulnerability, but as awareness. People become more attuned to environmental cues, emotional undercurrents, and internal signals. This awareness allows for earlier intervention when misalignment arises, preventing larger disruptions later. The concept of symbolic signs or synchronicities, while framed spiritually in the original script, can also be understood as increased attentiveness. When focus sharpens, individuals notice patterns they previously overlooked. These observations, whether numerical, situational, or relational, reinforce confidence in direction. At this point, clarity regarding personal identity strengthens. Roles adopted for survival people-pleasing, overextension, self-silencing lose relevance. Authentic preferences become clearer. This authenticity influences behavior, communication, and long-term planning. However, authenticity often brings friction. When individuals act in alignment with their values, they may encounter resistance from environments accustomed to previous versions of them. This resistance is not necessarily malicious. It reflects adjustment lag. Over time, consistency either reshapes expectations or necessitates separation. The narrative emphasizes that decisions made during this phase carry amplified impact. This is consistent with systems theory, where small inputs during sensitive periods can significantly influence outcomes. As internal alignment improves, choices, however minor they appear, shape trajectory more directly. This awareness encourages intentionality. Habits are examined. Daily routines are adjusted. Health, rest, and mental clarity become priorities rather than afterthoughts. These changes are not about perfection, but sustainability. Long-term progress requires stable foundations. The message's caution regarding physical and emotional well-being reflects this principle. Burnout during transitional phases can undermine progress. Maintaining health supports cognitive function, emotional regulation, and resilience essential components for navigating change effectively. As external conditions begin to respond to internal shifts, individuals may notice improved flow. Tasks progress with less resistance. Communication becomes clearer. Opportunities arise through networks rather than force. While challenges persist, they are approached with greater confidence and adaptability. This stage also involves the resolution of lingering conflicts. Situations that once felt stagnant may suddenly find closure. Conversations long avoided become possible. Outcomes align more closely with effort. These developments reinforce trust in the process. The narrative introduces the idea of justice or balance returning. Interpreted practically, this often reflects delayed consequences aligning with effort and integrity. While outcomes are not always immediate, consistency over time tends to produce alignment between values and results. Another important element is the strengthening of internal boundaries. Emotional resilience improves. External negativity has less influence. Criticism is assessed rather than absorbed. This does not imply indifference, but discernment. Protection, as described in the original text, can be understood as psychological resilience. Individuals become less reactive to destabilizing influences. They recover more quickly from setbacks. Focus remains intact even amid uncertainty. As awareness expands, Individuals may experience a broader perspective on their place within larger systems, community, industry, family, or culture. Purpose shifts from self-centered goals to contribution-based objectives. Impact becomes a metric of success alongside personal fulfillment. This shift toward contribution enhances motivation. Effort feels meaningful when aligned with something beyond immediate reward. This does not negate personal ambition, but contextualizes it within a larger framework. The concept of a new timeline reflects this repositioning. Life direction becomes more coherent. Short-term actions align with long-term vision. Distractions lose appeal because they do not serve the trajectory being established. Importantly, this phase does not eliminate uncertainty. Unknowns remain, but they are no longer paralyzing. Familiarity with change increases tolerance for ambiguity. Confidence is derived from adaptability rather than controlled out as internal coherence strengthens. Energy previously consumed by conflict or indecision becomes available for creation and execution. Projects move forward. Ideas gain structure. Momentum builds gradually but steadily. The narrative also acknowledges that some elements must be fully released before progress stabilizes. Attachment to outdated identities, roles, or expectations can hinder integration. Letting go becomes an act of alignment rather than lost on. As this release occurs, space opens for innovation and growth. New connections form. Learning accelerates. Perspective broadens. The individual operates with increased clarity and reduced internal friction. Toward the conclusion of this process, the emphasis shifts from transformation to maintenance. Growth becomes less disruptive and more sustainable. Systems replace intensity. Habits replace bursts of motivation. This stage is characterized by consistency. Results accumulate through repetition rather than dramatic breakthroughs. Progress becomes less visible but more reliable. Externally, others may begin to notice changes. Presence feels more grounded. Communication carries weight. Decisions reflect confidence. This influence is not asserted. It emerges naturally from alignment. The final message reinforces that the process described is not about reaching a permanent endpoint. Development continues, but from a more stable foundation. Challenges persist, but they are navigated with greater skill and awareness. Ultimately, the narrative concludes that what began as disruption resolves into integration. What was once fragmented becomes coherent. What was uncertain becomes navigable. The individual emerges not unchanged, but better aligned with their capabilities, values, and direction. This is not a promise of ease, but of clarity. Not a guarantee of success, but of preparedness. The transformation described does not remove difficulty from life. It equips the individual to engage with it more effectively. The process, taken as a whole, reflects a universal pattern. Breakdown precedes breakthrough. Clearing precedes construction. And awareness precedes direction. When approached with patience and intention, these phases produce not loss, but capacity. As the final phase of this narrative unfolds, attention turns away from transformation itself and toward what follows after major internal and external shifts have settled. This stage is not defined by dramatic change, but by stabilization. What has been cleared, restructured, and realigned now begins to function as an integrated system rather than a collection of separate efforts. At this point, individuals often notice a calmer internal environment. The urgency that once drove decisions diminishes, not because ambition has disappeared, but because direction has become clearer. When uncertainty fades, there is less need to rush. Actions become deliberate rather than reactive. Energy is no longer spent questioning every step, but applied consistently toward clearly understood goals. One of the most significant outcomes of this phase is coherence. Thoughts, values, and actions begin to align more naturally. Decisions require less internal debate because priorities are no longer in conflict. This coherence reduces mental fatigue and improves focus, allowing for sustained effort over time. External life often starts to reflect this internal order. Schedules become more manageable. Commitments feel intentional rather than obligatory. Progress may appear slower from the outside, but it is steadier and more reliable. Instead of frequent disruptions, there is continuity. This stage also brings a refined understanding of success. Rather than being defined solely by visible achievements, success becomes associated with stability, integrity, and sustainability. The ability to maintain progress without burnout or constant crisis becomes a marker of growth. Relationships continue to evolve in this phase. Those that remain tend to be based on mutual respect and shared values rather than convenience or necessity. Communication becomes clearer and more direct. Expectations are articulated rather than assumed, reducing misunderstandings and emotional friction. Importantly, this does not mean life becomes free of conflict. Disagreements and challenges still occur, but they are handled with greater composure. Emotional regulation improves, allowing for productive resolution rather than escalation. This capacity strengthens trust in both personal and professional relationships. Another defining feature of this phase is ownership. Individuals take responsibility for their choices without excessive self-blame. Past decisions are viewed as data rather than regrets. Lessons are integrated, not revisited repeatedly. This forward-facing mindset prevents stagnation and supports continued development. Confidence during this stage is understated. There is less need to prove capability or justify direction. Work speaks for itself. Presence carries assurance without force. This quiet confidence often attracts opportunities and collaboration without active pursuit. The narrative also highlights the importance of maintenance. Growth achieved through transformation requires upkeep. Habits established during earlier phases must be reinforced. Boundaries must be respected. Without maintenance, even well-built systems degrade over time. Rest becomes a strategic tool rather than a response to exhaustion. Recovery is planned and intentional. This approach preserves clarity and prevents the erosion of focus. Sustainable performance replaces cycles of overexertion and collapse. Reflection remains part of the process, but it is no longer consumed by self-doubt. Instead, reflection is used to evaluate effectiveness and adjust strategy. What works is reinforced. What no longer serves is modified or released without unnecessary attachment. Another important shift is perspective on control. While earlier stages may have involved attempts to manage every variable, this phase acknowledges limits. Effort is focused on what can be influenced directly. Outcomes beyond control are met with adaptability rather than resistance. This acceptance does not indicate passivity. It reflects strategic realism. Energy is conserved for actions that matter most. Distractions lose their hold because they do not align with long-term direction. As stability increases, long-term planning becomes more concrete. Goals are defined not just by ambition, but by feasibility and alignment. Milestones are set with awareness of capacity. Progress is measured in consistency rather than intensity. Ethical considerations also gain prominence. As influence and responsibility grow, decisions carry broader implications. Integrity becomes non-negotiable. Short-term advantages that compromise values are rejected in favor of durable outcomes. The idea of legacy emerges here, not as reputation, but as impact. Attention shifts from individual gain to the systems being built, processes, knowledge, or structures that can endure beyond personal involvement. This perspective increases accountability and purpose. Contribution replaces competition as a primary motivator. Success is no longer defined by comparison, but by usefulness. This reframing reduces anxiety and fosters collaboration. The narrative also acknowledges that not everyone will understand or support this evolution. Explanation becomes optional. Alignment replaces approval as the guiding metric. Consistency over time communicates more effectively than justification. At this stage, identity stabilizes. Roles are chosen intentionally rather than adopted by default. Self-concept is informed by function and values rather than past limitations. This stability allows for flexibility without loss of direction. Challenges that arise are met with preparedness rather than surprise. Familiarity with change increases resilience. Difficulty is approached as a problem to be solved, not a threat to identity. The cumulative effect of this process is trust in judgment, trust in adaptability, and trust in the ability to respond effectively to uncertainty. This trust reduces fear and supports decisive action. As the narrative approaches its conclusion, it becomes clear that the transformation described was never about a single moment or event. It was a sequence of stages, each serving a specific purpose. Removal created space. Realignment established direction. Integration produced stability. What follows is not an ending, but a new operating mode. Growth continues, but without the volatility that characterized earlier phases. Progress becomes less visible, but more substantial. The message reinforces that alignment is not something external that arrives suddenly. It is cultivated through repeated choices, maintained through awareness, and demonstrated through consistency. What has been built is resilient because it has been tested. This final stage emphasizes responsibility over reaction. Instead of responding to circumstances impulsively, individuals act from clarity. This shift reduces stress and increases effectiveness. Ultimately, the outcome of this process is not perfection, but coherence. Life becomes navigable rather than overwhelming. Direction becomes clear enough to act, even when certainty is incomplete. The transformation integrates into daily life. It no longer requires constant attention. The work becomes quieter, but its impact expands through reliability and presence. As this chapter closes, the central conclusion remains straightforward. Periods of disruption, when approached with intention and patience, can lead to sustainable alignment. What once felt like loss becomes the foundation for clarity, stability, and purposeful movement forward. The process does not promise ease, but it delivers capacity. It does not remove challenge, but it strengthens response. And in doing so, it allows individuals to operate with confidence, consistency, and direction over the long term. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to pause and reflect on why it did. Content does not connect deeply by accident. When certain words stay with you, it is often because they mirror something already unfolding within your own thoughts or experiences. That recognition matters. It signals awareness, and awareness is always the starting point of meaningful change. Stay engaged with ideas that encourage clarity, stability, and long-term thinking is not about seeking motivation in fleeting moments. It is about building a mental environment that supports consistency. The narratives you return to repeatedly shape how you interpret challenges, how you respond to pressure, and how you define progress. What you choose to engage with influences what you sustain. If you found value here, consider remaining connected to content that prioritizes depth over noise. In a world that constantly pushes urgency, choosing reflection is an intentional act. Growth that lasts is rarely loud. It develops quietly through repeated exposure to perspectives that encourage patience, alignment, and thoughtful action. Engagement is not passive. When you reflect on an idea, revisit it, or apply it to your own situation, you reinforce it internally. Over time, this reinforcement transforms insight into habit. Habit shapes behavior, and behavior ultimately shapes outcomes. What may feel like a small interaction now can contribute to larger shifts later. Think about what stood out to you most. Was it the emphasis on stability, the value placed on coherence, or the reminder that progress does not require constant urgency? Carry that single insight forward. Let it inform how you approach decisions, how you manage energy, and how you measure success. Focused application matters more than collecting information. Remaining engaged also means allowing space for continued learning. No stage is final, and no perspective is complete. What supports you now may evolve as your context changes. Staying connected to thoughtful narratives helps you adapt without losing direction. Adaptability grounded in clarity prevents stagnation. If this message helped you feel more grounded, more patient, or more intentional, acknowledge that shift. Awareness deserves recognition. It marks the moment where change becomes possible, even before results are visible. Many people overlook this stage, but it is often where the most important internal work happens. Choosing to stay connected to ideas that encourage sustainable growth is a decision to invest in yourself over time. It is a commitment to clarity instead of confusion, consistency instead of intensity, and alignment instead of constant adjustment. These choices rarely produce immediate validation, but they build reliability and confidence. As you move forward, remain selective about what you consume and engage with. Seek out perspectives that support long-term stability rather than short-term reassurance. Progress supported by thoughtful input tends to endure challenges more effectively than progress driven by momentary inspiration. This message does not conclude a process. It invites continuation. What happens next depends on how you integrate what resonated, how often you return to aligned ideas, and how intentionally you apply them. Reflection without action fades, but reflection paired with consistency compounds. Stay engaged with content that supports deliberate movement rather than rushed change. Let clarity guide your pace. Let consistency shape your outcomes. And allow alignment build quietly over time to do the work that urgency never could.